Sweet. Um, Hello everyone. I did not do my hair today because I'm a basic bitch today, and that's totally fine. Um, how do you say your name? It's Oxtus?
Akustin Augustus.
Akustin Augustus. Welcome. For everyone at home, obviously know who I am. My name's Shad Squatch. I stream on Twitch and do other stupid things. And Akustin is part of Spoopy Newbies, from my understanding.
Yep.
Yeah, can you
And the
just
Brave Collective.
Can you give me a just tell me your story? What have you been doing in Eve, and where are you in Eve right now?
Well, I started right at the beginning of 2015. My uncle and my dad got me into this game, previously from City of Heroes, and I played it through high school on and off, and ever since then, whenever I could. Went on a hiatus about a year or so ago, came back and joined a corp. Corp fell through, was referred to Spoopy, joined Spoopy, and I've been having the time of my life ever since.
Awesome, dude. How has Spoopy been? Because I've bumped into Spoopy once in a while going through like wormhole space. How have you guys been doing for the last year or two?
Um, it's been it's definitely been a roller coaster. I'll say that much. I've never been in a corp that's definitely been as chaotic at times as Spoopy can be. Like one day you're chilling, robbing skyhooks, nothing major, and the next day, oh, guess what? You're evicted.
Oh no! Have you guys been evicted recently, or who did you get evicted by?
Oh, we just got evicted by Forsaken Few. Uh
Oh no.
yeah, it's honorable. I'll say that much.
Okay, that's good.
Um, but they have Bushido, we have Bushido. We are taking this in stride and transitioning into new funner things.
Awesome. That's exciting. Yeah, we got backdoored while we were backdoor scans by Forsaken Few while we were doing a C5 crab, and they blew up 50 bill worth of our capitals inside the C5, and it was very sad, but it is what it is.
Hey, they're
So,
cool.
oh
I,
yeah.
I like them. I like them. They're definitely cool as fuck. I'll give them that. I thought at first that it was gonna be a very hostile, very like not fun takeover, but they've at least made a good time out of it, and I honestly applaud them for being honorable through all of this.
That's good. That's good. What makes you want to try out for CSM? You I know this is your second year. I looked back at your CSM 19 application. What made you want to try again?
You know, I wanted to take a different approach, and I'm honestly glad I didn't get elected last year because, I mean, let's be honest, McFightmaster got elected last year as the wormhole ticket, and he's done actually some pretty great work in terms of getting improvements pushed through for wormhole space. But this year specifically, I'm not running explicitly as a wormhole candidate. I'm actually running for pirates specifically, of all spaces, not just of the wormhole variety.
When you mean by pirates, what can you go into a little bit more detail what that might be? Because I'm a I'm a I'm almost one of the Amazon locals, so I understand a little bit of like piracy. But what does piracy mean to you?
Well, I mean, it comes in all forms. To me personally, it's a matter of having the most fun by making somebody else not have fun at times, but also, making sure you're not being a toxic piece of shit at the same time.
Yeah.
But the piracy can be anything, and even that's what the great thing about it is. You're either in high sec, people like Black Flag, declare war on as many people as possible. You've got code ganking orcas left and right, or take it to low sec. You've got people doing pirate faction warfare and insurgencies. In nullsec, now we've got skyhooking. We can go robbing ESSs, taking other people's hard-earned ratting time for ourselves. And I mean, come on, piracy and wormhole space is just all of the above. You get a high sec static hole, cool, now you're high sec ganking. Get a low sec, now you're in faction warfare. Get an null sec, you're robbing skyhooks. Or get a wormhole space connection and, be a be a menace to most people's sides.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm friends with Bush Kitty One Shot, and he's a well-known high sec ganker slash mining permits enthusiast. It's a very fun playstyle that I haven't got as much of a chance to do, but it's something that I always aspire to want to try to do to go wreak havoc in high sec. So speaking of like piracy and like outlawed stuff, if you were to get elected to the CSM, what's something that you would hope to change or see happen differently in order to promote more piracy in Eve? Because I'm assuming you want more piracy in Eve. I want more piracy in Eve.
Yeah, the thing about piracy is that most of the actual piracy that goes on today is not necessarily because of anything that CCP has actually done directly, but more because of the way that people have, come to play the game and have come to build their careers as a capsuleer. Like high set ganking, like that's not something that you go through a career agent for and you learn how to do like as if you were doing missions. That's something that you turn your safety off and you try and kill someone before the cops show up and blow your ass up. It's the creativity that like I won't say CCP doesn't have. They definitely have it, but to me personally, it feels stuck in 2004. And the only reason that I say that is because I play City of Heroes still very frequently, even though it's been shut down and it's running on private servers. Um, in terms of the change I would want to bring for piracy, it's not specifically for piracy. I would want to take the two major expansion schedule that CCP has currently been running for the however long it's been by now and put the CSM creatively up against CCP to see what it is that the CSM could really put out if they were given the driver's seat. And we do a role swap where the CSM takes the creative lead for one major expansion with CCP guiding them, and then the other way around for the other major expansion, and we see what works and what doesn't, and we experiment with it.
That feels like a very like dangerous thing to
Radical.
do, very radical
Oh,
thing to
it's
do.
absolutely dangerous and highly experimental, but at the same time, like I'm someone who has personally been through a game shutdown, and it's not fun, and it feels hopeless because at the end of the day, like it's a company decision. It is this game is not making us enough money anymore, so we are going to shut it down because the costs outweigh the benefits. It's that flat, cold decision that the business should be making, but still sucks for the people who still have the passion for the game. And I mean, let's be real. The CSM is the 12 out of 50 something most dedicated players in Eve who are willing to put their own volunteer time into the game in order to help improve the game. And I think with a pool of people who are that dedicated to doing something for a game that they love, we should actually absolutely, at the very least, be willing to experiment with how far we can push that and to see what the potential could bring for it.
So let's say CCP somehow magically like you guys got full control that for like maybe even like a mini patch. What would be something that you would want to see happen? Like what would be your dream scenario?
Carriers. Carriers. I have been thinking about a concept for carriers for so long now, and it's a little out of pocket, but it's also not with the way that like carriers work in the game currently, and also how like carriers in real life are. Um, so the idea that I have is a scriptable high slot module for regular carriers, not supers, just the regular ones. And what it does is it generates a wormhole to a certain area of space. It generates an extra large wormhole. Okay. You put a script in, it will be one of four scripts that will go to anywhere that an extra large wormhole could already go to. So that's low sec, null sec, C5, and C6 base. Or you don't run it with the script and it just random wormhole. Wherever you go is where you go. And you can take a fleet with you, which is what a carrier is supposed to do because carriers are not meant to be alone. Even their real world equivalents are not alone wherever they go. They have carrier groups with them to protect them. You already have all of the tools that you need for a fleet to work with a forward operating base on a carrier. You got a ship maintenance bay. You can take extra ships with you. I'm pretty sure the regular carriers can still use the cloning bay, and you take that drug where you respawn in your pod in the system with the cloning bay active. You there's so many things that you can do with it to basically turn your small gang fleet into a filament with a carrier with capital support, and it puts the carrier at risk of dying so that more carriers start getting used up and churned up, and there's a higher demand for carriers because they are content generators.
Yeah, I completely agree that carriers do need some sort of like that role of being like this is the dude that's going to bring the other dudes to the fights and support those guys to keep on fighting. I feel very much they're just, I don't know, they're just big drone boats essentially right now. And like CCP is doing like a bit of a better job with giving them like the ability to be like a mini Sino or like with the random boosting thing, but it doesn't really give them like a whole like unique identity just yet. And I think maybe going that far would definitely solidify their position in Eve as being this like really fucking cool ship that everyone's going to want to fly.
I mean, a lot of the complaints I hear is that why use a carrier when you can just use a Hodred? But like, I think the carrier is just not as openly defined in its role of being a support platform that a real world equivalent carrier is. Because you don't send a carrier by itself to invade a country, you know? You go and you take a carrier to give your fleet, your naval fleet and your ground forces air support wherever your carrier may be. And by giving Eve carriers a tool to actually take a fleet with them instead of just being the lone Hodred roaming around wherever the fuck the lone Hodred roams around, right? It gives carriers an exclusive option to generate content for groups of any size. Because I mean, think about it. Like, if you were generating an extra large wormhole, there's a hard mass restriction on what you can put through that hole before it collapses, even if you don't take the carrier with you. If you use the carrier as like a random filament bridge to take a fleet of, ships with somewhere, you could use it like that because you're generating a wormhole, or you're taking the fleet through and the carrier through on a one-way trip to wherever the fuck you're gonna go. And it would work for groups of multiple sizes or even for multi-boxers as well.
Um, would the wormhole just be something that would just stay around until the until somebody collapses it, or would this be like a wormhole that would that as soon as you jump your fleet through, it just immediately just collapses?
I think those are the types of specifics that like I can't say for certain what they should or shouldn't be, and that this is something that needs to be like a group discussion that like multiple people need to think this over. Is this a good idea? Would this too negatively impact the game? Would it positively impact these are the types of discussions that need to be happening about these types of subjects on a more serious and binding level.
Um, you did say in our little powwow chat with Yuri, like you want to experiment with what the CSM can do. Do you feel like the CSM has been doing enough in the last couple expansions or in the last couple years, or do you think that there's something that the CSM's currently not addressing strong enough or with enough, I don't know, like seriousness?
with with all of my direct interactions that I've had with the members of the CSM of 19 that I have directly interacted with, I think they're doing a great job, quite frankly. And I don't think it's necessarily a failing of any members of the CSM at all or the CSM as a whole. I think it's more along the lines of how do I put this? Turning your safety from green to yellow. Or in more this case, it would be from yellow to red.
Yeah, just giving CSM like sort of free reign to do whatever they want with the game for
I
like
don't I don't personally think free reign is the right term. Like in my head, I more envision it like actually kind of like a voting system, or almost like a parliamentary system, because there are 12 members on the CSM currently, and if there is ever a tie, then somebody from CCP would be breaking the tie in terms of what is being voted on, what's yes, what's no.
I do like that, like having a little bit of like diplomacy between like members of the CSM, and like they all have to come to some sort of like agreements of what sort of changes need to happen within the short stints that they might have for like an upcoming expansion or whatever. Um, Going back to piracy, what what other ways would you like to support piracy, or just like it sounds like just like active PvP or active interactivity between players? How would you like to support that as a CSM member?
War crimes. I am a massive fan of war crime simulators. And if I'm being quite frank with you, the only reason I'm playing Eve right now and not Stellaris is because Machine Empires got massively nerfed and rebalanced in Stellaris, and I don't like them anymore. And now I am, I guess, fully embracing my war crime simulator in Eve as best as I can.
How are you doing that right now?
Right now, just setting up my own little ragtag band of people who have a undying need to throw their own bodies into the fire for me, and who do it with a smile on their face the whole time. And you know, uh we go out and do content. Like right now, the piracy is just doing content, and in the near and far futures, there will be more nuance to it. But I'm a very new FC. I've only been doing it for the past like year. So I've still got a lot to learn in terms of like actually taking fleets out to do content. But a lot of the piracy that I want to do is actually based around skyhooks. I love that they came out. I love that they give an opportunity to like take from sovereign nations and make it your own. It's like it feels to me like true piracy, especially how when you're blowing up the skyhooks instead of just robbing them with the silo link, you get everything, which is cool as shit, right? I
Yeah.
want to build on that. And the part that I want to build on specifically is the workforce, because like to me right now it just feels like Eve is dead, and not in terms of like, oh, nobody's playing the game. It feels like Eve is dead because like where are all the fucking people at, right? Like I get it, Concord manipulates the capsular sensors so that we can't see people, but like now we can see a workforce on the planets where we're doing planetary industry. Why can't I go and bombard the planet and kill everyone on the planet? You know, like I could do it in Stellaris, I do it in Star Sector. Like I love doing these types of war crime things. Like why is it that I can't show up to like frat space, walk up to their planet and just start shooting at the planet and killing everybody who's doing PI there?
Like I know we have like merc dens, but to like add on to like just to be able to expand on to just like war crime playing, I guess would be really fun. Like I know we have the shooter coming out or whatever, but like that's not enough. That's definitely not enough for me. And I know where you're coming from. Like I when I used to play a lot of Command and Conquer, I always played the Brotherhood of Nod, and I love nuking the shit out of civilians. Um
Oh man.
but I do see the sort of appeal for wanting to be the bad guy and going into like behind enemy lines and messing with other people's stuff, like messing with their toys and their sandbox and whatever. Like as somebody who's like who has been part of a couple of evictions, and like that brings me a lot of joy to like go and like um put like to put yourself over top of like a larger entity or larger group, and like, hey, I'm making a difference, I'm making changes to the ecosystem in Eve. You're changing the story. You're being the rut and the giant cog that is like, I don't know, Brave or Goonswarm or whoever. That's a really fun feeling to have. How so like one thing that I always ask CSM people is just like, what would be how would you push people to go and do more of that sort of stuff? Like you said earlier that like there's no real like air mission to like push people to go and do like, hey, go gank somebody in high sec. How would you push people to want to go and get out of like mission running in high sec or ice mining a belt or whatever, and get them to go do more dangerous, nefarious activities.
I wouldn't. I would not push for that at all, quite frankly, and I don't believe that there should be a push for anyone to feel forced to go do any specific type of content. Like, that's what makes this game so fucking great is that there's so many different ways to play it, and I personally believe that, quite frankly, if you're not maximizing your fun per hour in whatever way possible, then why the fuck are you playing this game, right? Like, my uncle, who still plays this game, is a high sec Care Bear. And that's fine. That's how he wants to play. I invited him to come with me with my corp and doing, wormhole shenanigans and whatnot, and he declined. And you know what? That's awesome. Why? Because the game is fucking massive. Like one of my old corp mates who just recently came back from hiatus, he's getting into doing station trading now. Like that's dope. Whole ass career change.
Yeah, I'm currently transitioning more from like a wormholer to C5 CEO slash dread supplier. Like yeah, there are so many different ways for somebody to go in like into different directions in the game. Like you don't have to be like high sec ganker your entire like Eve career. You can definitely transition to be like, I want to go do high sec incursions. I want to go do run MPSI, or I want to go spin Ishtars for 24 hours a day. Like that's a big thing that drove me into Eve. And I think we need to make sure that when we do get new blood into the game, that's sort of like the driving thing. Is like, this is Eve. This is what is your story going to be. And having those stories that is like very authentic from players is something that like everybody, not just the CSM members, really need to drive. What is there? Since you're like a bit of a wormholer, how are you feeling about wormhole space right now? Is there anything you like to add on to it, or anything you like to change?
I think that's a touchy subject. And I the one thing I would love to change would actually be a second wormholer on the CSM this year. I, I think there's too many different perspectives in terms of like what wormhole space needs because like there's so many different ways you can be a wormholer. Like yes, I'm a wormholer, but like I'm nomadic, right? And I spent the past 9 years being a nomad and only recently just started settling down and doing shit, right? Like you've got the nomads, then you've also got the low class residents who, mostly are either in purpose like built holes for indie or content or are building, corps to do their own thing. You've got the mid, the people who live in C4s who I don't know why they live in C4s. It's been forever since I lived in one, and that was like way back when I first started. And then you've got the high class residents who are like king crabbers, and I don't know what else they do, right? There's so much to do that like we just need more voices to speak up as to like what it is that wormhole space actually needs because like I could sit here and tell you what I think wormhole space needs all day every day, but at the end of the day, like I play the game in one way, just like a null bro plays the game in another way, just like someone who plays in low sec or station trades or high sec or whatever, right? Like I think what wormhole space needs from CCP and from the CSM is more voices speaking up and saying what it is that they feel it needs so that we can get a better consensus on what actually needs to be done to improve the space that, to be quite honest, feels left behind from everywhere else.
Yeah, like talking to my group, and talking to some other wormholers, like it does feel like for the last, like I know we've had like updates and we've had balance changes in wormhole space, but there has to be some sort of shakeup just to get people to go into wormhole space, in my opinion.
I
Like go ahead.
I would just like to say, like specifically, one thing I do want to see, like as an actual change though, is the ability to name systems, like actually where you see the system name of the J code to name the system with I don't. I don't know how it would happen, but like it to me feels like the biggest change that most everyone would be wanting because it's like how complicated can that actually be?
I did poke the in the Eve partner discords that they should rename Abazon to Abuzon for like the Crimson Harvest events. And I think CCP told me that that's literally impossible for them to do right now
Oh,
with their current
that's so
technology.
sad.
I know it would be very fun for them to just give us the opportunity to like change names of stuff. Um,
I'd
but
want to explore that though. I feel like that could be maybe given some more thought. Like I'm sure now they can't figure it out, but what if they could figure it out in like a year's time or two?
what would you name your wormhole to be?
Athens. That's what
Athens?
the current hole that I am running is named is Athens. And if I could change the name of that system from J, I'm not going to spoil the J code to
Damn.
Athens, I absolutely would.
Oh yeah. I could foresee there being some problems, maybe with like naming structures, but it would make it sort of feel like, hey, this is my wormhole. And be able to tell other people like, hey, this is the flag that I'm planting, especially for groups that are less nomadic. Instead of being like, hey, this is the battle of J161722 or whatever, it's now the battle of blah hole or at the Athens wormhole or something. I think that would be a little bit more a better way of being able to tell stories than listing off just random numbers to people. What? So going back to skyhooks, how did you feel about them changing skyhooks from being like you could just raid whenever to now you have like a 3 hour window to go and like go after them?
I so I myself and Spoopy Corp were one of the ones to take advantage of the period of time where it was very, very easy and very, very lucrative to rob skyhooks. And I mean, one of my court mates actually ended up doing it by himself so much that he ended up plexing, I think it was 6 accounts off of rolling the null static and robbing holes and robbing skyhooks and ESSs. Like it was a bit broken, I have to admit, and I love that it was broken, but it definitely needed a bit of a cool down because that was way too oppressive as the attacker. Now I haven't really experienced the defending side of it, but that's also because I'm not a null bro, and I think I'd rather take my eyes out with a melon baller before I actively commit to doing that kind of null set content. But you know, I'm sure the defenders are feeling much better now that that's been tapered off a bit. But in terms of now, like the everything 3 hours thing, at first it kind of sucked because only being vulnerable for 1 hour it was too tight of a window. And most of the time, like we would roll our null static and look for a new skyhook. We would be on the way, and then like we would get there just like a minute too late and it's done and it's locked and then there's no other sky hooks around for like 10, 15 jumps, so we gotta burn it back to the hole, roll again and try and find another. It sucked for a bit, but once the 2 hours, once it got swapped to 2 hours instead of 1 hour being vulnerable, it was definitely a lot better. So the the journey of skyhooks from introduction to current is the like that's the experimentation that I can appreciate.
Do you think with the ESS changes, do you think that's been enough of a change to restrict marauders from going inside the ESS, or is there would you like there to be more changes being done to the ESS to make it a little bit more interactive gameplay for both sides, or do you think the marauder change was the best thing since slice spread?
The Marauders were oppressive. That's nobody can deny that. That like sitting 150K off while you were trapped inside a bubble that you can't even use a micro warp drive to traverse with, and you get 3 or 4 Vargers decloaking and just one tapping you with artillery. That's not fun for anybody. That's just a blue balls because you got baited by a high ass ESS. I Marauders do not belong in the ESS, but I also am not sure like what other changes there could be. It's kind of a basic gameplay loop as is. You go in, you link, either they fight and defend and fight ensues and whoever's the victor happens, right? Or nobody comes to defend their ESS and you get paid, you burn out of the bubble and you leave. I I
Yeah,
don't really know what exactly could be improved with that, or if that's something that would just need to be used as a hey, we can take this current existing system and integrate it into something else in the future and make the old content refreshed by making it interact with newer content.
I've heard people complain about like, oh, it sucks that CCP is sort of restricting like contents now. So like, it would be nice if instead of just like, hey, you can't bring Marauders inside the ESS at all, like putting in that like that 500 kilometer, I think it like 500 kilometers where you can't be cloaked basically on grid with the ESS. That would have been enough. But now they're just sort of just shrinking the amount, like the amount of contents that you would see now in nullsec. People are less likely to undog Marauders, for example, because there's less places for them to go and defend. Would you like to see there to be a return of Marauders eventually, or we have to let it stew for a little bit before we start bringing shit back?
No, this is definitely not a make a decision on the short term thing because first off, restricting ship types is nothing new for CCP. It's been happening since missions because missions famously can be ship type restrictive depending on what mission it is that you're doing. This isn't anything out of the ordinary for in terms of balance with how CCP has approached the game before. And I honestly feel like like me personally, Marauders don't belong in the ESS. They are it's too favoring to the Marauder because the one thing the Marauder will usually lack is long range tackle. And by being in one, if you're a brawling Marauder, by being inside the ESS at 0, you are automatically you've got 80 kilometers of they cannot they cannot warp off and they cannot use micro warp drives. And sure, people will be afterburner fit, but that's still all you need to do is have webs and grapples, and it's oppressive as is. You need a massive fleet to respond to it, or you're trying to rob it, and as the attacker, you are basically warping into a fly trap because as soon as you get into the bubble, you have 6 Marauders decloaking, and in 6 seconds, you're going to be shot down and destroyed without any kind of counterplay whatsoever. It on either side of a Marauder, either attacking or defending, it's just too oppressive inside the ESS.
Yeah, completely fair. I've been on plenty of MPSI roams where it just turns into 4 or 5 Vargers just sliding into an ESS. Is like, well, that was fun. And let's go back to Jita, I suppose. There's almost nothing we can do besides just N+1 them with EWAR or TDs or whatever. Yeah, it does get pretty annoying and boring. Just that they just bring the bigger shits, and then there's literally nothing we can do. Um, with like the Skyhook PvP, how has your group been enjoy? Obviously, your group has been enjoying quite a bit as a money making venture. How do you feel about it as like a content creating venture? Do we need more stuff like that out in nullsec, or are we or is this like is there anything you would like to see change for Skyhook rating?
Oh, I will say it's definitely a content generator. That's the one thing that I am absolutely certain about Skyhooks is that it's a content generator for both the attackers and the defenders because one, either someone's gonna come and try and rob your shit, so now you get the opportunity to defend, or you're trying to go rob somebody's shit. And for me and being in Spoopy, when we go out to do skyhooking, like we've run into all sorts of things. We've gone skyhooking over in the Providence area and had fun blapping with AO. We've gone skyhooking over in Frat had fun getting dropped on by marshals and faxes, going out to deep drone lands where a horde are asleep and just getting paid, right? Or staying away from fountain because in it are very scary. Yeah, it's definitely a make sure you have an idea of who the residents are before you come knocking on their door with a flaming pile of dog shit, because either they're gonna come out with a shotgun or they'll leave the door locked.
Um, with is there enough difference between ESS PvP versus the Skyhook PvP? Like from my experience with going from like ESS, I usually turns in it starts out off just very brawly, and then you have your people just trying to scatter to start not turn into a brawly mess. But when I go onto Skyhooks, is very it starts off usually very just like long range sort of snipey bullshit. Do you think there's enough difference between the two in order to make them both very different, or is there, or would you like to see them be even further different apart, or do we want to see ESSs be like Skyhooks where it's not a dead space where you have to take a like slide into the gates sort of thing?
So the way I currently see skyhooks and ESSs is the square and the rectangle. You know, one is definitely applicable to the other, but the other is not applicable to the one, right? If you primarily do ESS robbing or ESS defending, um, I think you are more going to feel comfortable doing skyhooking than if you were almost exclusively doing skyhooking and you try to get into robbing ESSs, because the two are similar in, the way that you have to fight for a certain amount of time, hold yourself down, and get a payout, take your payout out, and then get somehow figure out how to get paid, right? But um fighting in an ESS grid is a lot more restrictive than fighting on grid with a skyhook, because at the very least on a skyhook grid, you still have a lot more outside play available past the you are linked and now you wait, right? Because when you're on an ESS grid and you're linking, you're sitting inside that bubble, and your whole fleet who is with you is either sitting on the out gate or sitting on the in gate, or they're sitting in the bubble with you. And it's very concentrated, and I think it's easier to spread out to go into skyhooking versus like when you're skyhooking, you're the whole system is your grid, and the only person who's locked down is the person who's linked. So they're similar, but they're also very unique from each other. In terms of changes I'd want to see on the ESS side of things, really, like I said, not much that I can see that would need change. I think it could be integrated into different types of content. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm the person to answer that question on the ESS side, but as for skyhooking, I definitely would like to see more variability in terms of like what planets can generate resources that can be robbed. Uh, I love the lava. You're robbing magmatic gas, which is used for primarily metanoxes. It's the one thing that most people use them for. But I think they're also used for the Sava upgrades, and then the ice for sure is used for Sava upgrades, and that's nice. But like, you've got so many other different planet types that could be producing their own unique resource that could have a place in the economy. And when a resource has a place in the economy and is used in the economy, has demand being created for that resource, and there's a supply, piracy fits in because piracy takes from the supply and then supplies the demand itself at a much higher price. And I think that if we open the door to other planet types bringing in resources that can be generated with skyhooks and giving more of a reason for people, like, sure, you've got your ice planets generating the super ionic ice so that you can power your Sov upgrades. Awesome. You've got the magmatic gas coming from the lava planets to power your metanoxes and whatever the fuck else that they power. Cool. What could we get from a gas planet? What could we get from a plasma planet? We've got the mercenary dens for temperate planets, but those are also on a more long-term basis, because if you want to put a mercenary den down, well, first you got to kill the one that's there. That's got to go through a reinforcement period. Then you have to put your own down. Then you have to defend it, and then you're going to be there for a while. Versus like when you're going skyhooking, it's you're on grid for 10 minutes. You grab the resources you can, and then you roll out. And what variability can we get from adding different types of resources from different planets that skyhooks are on?
Yeah, it would be really cool to see, like, just like, I honestly, I really enjoy skyhooking way more than I do like doing ESS stuff. I feel like ESS is, it's really good for MPSI because you do bring people into like a single area of space, and you can get set up sort of in like your own little dungeon, and hopefully people come in and try to like defend their loot or whatever. But Skyhook, it does feel like the next progression up from ESS content, and I do like that there is a lot of space that CCP could play with that. I'm just really interested to see where we can go with skyhooking contents. Like you said, like it would be really cool if we do give Nullsec like a little bit of a bone, and instead of just having two plants that they could do workforce stuff on, that there could be like more resources that they could be ascertaining for themselves to maybe like drop the prices of ships and whatever, but give the people who like piracy like more tools to go and fuck with that resource management stuff, which is really really fun. um yeah, let's give them more bones. Well, maybe not. um have you thought of any ways, like, because you were talking about like you want to do like war crimes? What other sort of war crimes would you like to see being done in Eve to, sort of support that piracy lifestyle?
I would absolutely love to declare war on the empires. Like I would love to see what it is that if hypothetically somebody were to take control of the empires on the side of CCP and pitted the empires against the sovereign nations of Nullsec, like what kind of chaos could that bring to the game? Like I want to see the madness of like just all out war. And like yeah, there are a couple wars that have been declared now, cool, but like I want to see a war of extermination. Like I want to end an empire, and I think one of the four have to go. Like it's time that somebody takes out someone. We've been alive for what 20 something years now. The us capsuleers have been here, and how many hundreds of years that the empires have been their own sovereign nation. Somebody's got to die at some point, right?
That would definitely change up a huge aspect of Eve. Yeah, that's almost scary to think about.
I mean, what if the drifters pull it off? What if the
Yeah,
Triglavians do it? What if the I don't know, what if the Joves say fuck you and kill somebody?
yeah.
It's the story of it that really gets me. Like what happens that would push an empire to the brink of death in this new Eden because of the technology and the resources that people have at their disposal. Like in order to die here, like we can't even die. We get blown up and we're thrown into a clone, and the only way technically Capsuleers can die is if you biomass. What would cause an empire with this kind of technology to just up and die? Like what happened to the Jove, right? They had their what was it, a virus that killed
Yeah,
the
the
majority of
Jove
them?
disease or whatever.
Yeah, like what that was, a precursor death. Like the Jove died long before any of the four current empires were relevant. Like, is it gonna be like the Amar finally kill off the Minmatar government, or the Galente finally overthrow the megacorps of the Caldari? Like, what's the tipping point? Or if it's none of them at all, like, what if the Triglavians just go and kill all of the Amarian leadership? What if the Drifters come in and destroy the Galente? Like, there's so many possibilities for like lore expansion with one of the empires that I want to see the chaos of just something massive happening, and that chaos is going to be the cover for more pirate like content.
That, yeah, that would be kind of be kind of fucking insane. Like I do understand with like from like a dev side of things, like to exterminate
Oh, it
like
would be a
one.
nightmare.
Yeah, it would be kind of like insane to completely wipe out like another an entire alliance or entire group of people in game. I understand like a way to like drive content or just to push lore ahead and maybe to do some really big changes that maybe CCP have in mind. Um, that would be like a really crazy way of doing it.
It's something that's like I'm definitely on the more like radical change side of things, and I've got the problem of getting a little too far ahead of myself sometimes. Um, but it's something that it's at least worth thinking about. Sure, is it a great idea to kill off one of the empires? Absolutely not. It's absolutely terrible idea, but it is an idea, and it's something that has been put out there, and we can discuss it about, and we can debate about, and should be debated about in the future. Well, maybe not specifically an empire dying, but things like this that are a bit more on the experimental or on the radical side should at the very least be discussed and debated about before they're just dismissed as like it's not worth doing, because what if the experimentation leads to something great? Like how did the skyhooks become a thing? I'm curious about that because, like, I personally think like skyhooks in general are a great source of content, both offensively and defensively. Whether or not people enjoy it is up to them to decide. But I would love to see the actual creative process that went into thinking up of how to make skyhooks happen.
um, I I do have another interview coming up in just like about 5-10 minutes. Let's sort of narrow things down. What are three really big things that you would like to see, or like what are some three big things that you want people to know about you in regards to you hoping to become the next CSM 20?
Well, number one is above all else, I'm just trying to maximize everybody and my own fun per hour. And that's something that I only recently learned about doing when I joined Brave, but I've not had any more fun playing this game than before I joined Brave anyways. So that's number one right there. Number two, the I really would love to just see the experimental phase start. Like this is CSM 20, and I think it's about time that, we try new things, spice it up a bit, see what works, see what doesn't. The radical changes are not the answer to anything, but at the very least, there are ways to experiment with new concepts and see if it works with the long-term goals of, keeping Eve alive and running as a game. Like, technically speaking, in all reality, this is a generational game. Like, my dad and my uncle got me into this game when I was a kid, and I would absolutely love to one day have kids and then have them play Eve with me. That'd be fucking amazing, right? Number three though is I don't let politics get in the way of things for me. Like, yes, there are reasons to, keep politics in play. You don't want to be spilling the beans of your own allies to people who shouldn't be hearing things, and OPSEC information is important for in all aspects. But I, when it comes to working on the actual game itself, the one thing I know that I can do is put politics aside and get results, or at the very least, try to get results. I'm not gonna let any type of politics that either happen to me or to others get in the way of what it is that a member of the CSM actually needs to be doing, which is communicating with CCP what the players want and need.
In your opinion, what would like maximizing your ISK, or sorry, your fun per I'm thinking ISK per hour. Maximizing your fun per hour. What would you feel would be one big change that you could do within the first week that isn't something that's like, hey, we need to have a 3 gigabytes expansion to do? What would be one change you would like to see in the first month of you being on CSM 20 that would maximize or at least increase everybody from a high sec care bear to the null sec bro, their fun per hour?
That one's hard to say.
Yeah.
because there's so many high sec to null sec to low to wormhole. It's so different. One thing's not going to apply to everyone, but what I personally would like to see happen is the carrier change. On a technical side, just from me thinking about the actual like pseudocode that would go into it, you already have the technology to generate wormholes. They already come and spawn in systems. You scan down the signatures. Even if the carrier were making a new signature wormhole that would spawn in the system that is of the type that you spawned it in, like I think that's something that is definitely easy and compact enough that can be done in a minor patch and start experimenting with and seeing what it is that it can do to improve carrier gameplay.
Yeah, I feel like giving like I feel like that's a very common thing that's going with a lot of the CSM members I've been talking to is just we need to give the carrier a bit more of an identity, um, and maybe a little bit more robustness. I guess I don't know if that's a word. In order to make it sort of that more people are willing to put them out into space, and give them like a real reason to put them out into space, other than just being baby Titan, like
Well,
jump bridge or whatever.
well, they used to have that functionality back when they had the triage module, but then, faxes came to be, and then they basically ripped out what made the carriers unique at the time and then didn't put back in anything new. And now they're stuck in this kind of content limbo where they're very niche and have some uses, but aren't as widely used and demanded by, people like how people used to need them.
Right on. Cool. Any final thoughts, words, comments, anything you want to tell the people at home before I let you go?
Um, I think no matter who people decide to vote for, the one message that I want to get across is uh, be open minded, not just to myself, but also to the other candidates who might not have as popular of ideas as what most people on Reddit or elsewhere might want you to believe. Because, in my experience, sometimes it's the out of pocket and unorthodox ideas that can result in better results than traditional methods.
Yeah, everyone's got to think outside of the box a little bit, especially when we're trying to make the Eve a little bit more interesting, a little bit more fun, maximize that fun per hour.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on tonight. I hope you do well. I heard you're trying to break your previous record from last year. Well,
99
none,
votes.
I think you'll get there. Knock on wood, it's going to happen.
I hope so. The better results, that's all I'm looking for. If I even if I just make it to 100.